Somehow I don't think this is an ideal angle for this video. Hi Booktube, it's Marianne at Be Last of a Book, and today we are wrapping up the second half of March 2021. So we're currently on the 10th of April. I took a few weeks off of social media, apart from taking part in reading sprints here and there, because my life basically fell apart at the beginning of April and I've not been in the best headspace to be filming. So I don't have an April TBR, but I'll be discussing books throughout the month. And then doing my wrap up, and there's some other videos that I want to film and post. So I'm back, I'm in a better place, better headspace. So let's talk about the books I read in the second half of March. So the first book I read in the second half of the month was Take a Hint, Danny Brown by Talia Hibbert. This is the second book in the Brown Sisters series, and I thought I wouldn't love this as much as Get a Life, Chloe Brown, and I absolutely adored it. This was another 5-star for me. It was perfection. This is the love story of Zafir and Danny. Danny is a teacher at a college/university, and Zafir is the security guard for the campus that she works in. So Zafir is this kind of gentle giant. He's an ex-rugby player who reads romance novels. I just think that he is the cinnamon roll to end all cinnamon rolls. I just love him. He loves love, and he has this very idealistic view of how love should be. Danny is more kind of closed off and reserved when it comes to relationships. She's been bitten in the past, so she doesn't have the same kind of idealistic view that he does, and she kind of doesn't want a relationship. So what I liked about this is when the book starts off, I need to get comfortable. When the book starts off, Danny and Zafir have already known each other for like 6 months to a year, something like that, and they already have some sort of like nice chemistry there. They bring each other coffee and like cereal bars and stuff like that, and at the beginning, Danny's friend says something along the lines of, oh, here's your hot security guard, or something like that. So obviously there's already chemistry, there's already attraction there, so we're good to go. So there's none of this getting to know each other insta love kind of like building up vibe. There's already chemistry there. So there is a fire drill, and even though it's a fire drill, Zafir notices that Danny hasn't got out of the building yet, and kind of like does this big dramatic rescue, brings her outside, and in true student fashion, they're all standing outside with their phones, and the video and take photos of him bringing her out of the building, and it goes viral on social media. So everybody is like totally shipping the two of them together, and Zafir has found a way to kind of like use this to his advantage. So he runs a kind of like non-profit charity kind of youth group type thing for young boys to like deal with their feelings and stuff like that, which is great because men's mental health is often neglected in fiction and very often in sort of real life. So that was something great to include in the book. So they're like, right, we can use this as promotion to get attention for the group, and they start fake dating. I am a sucker for the fake dating trope, so I was here for it already. I was here for the characters and couldn't wait to see how this was going to unfold. So they go along with it, they end up falling in love, and the conflict comes obviously from the fact that the two of them have very different viewpoints for relationships and stuff like that, and then after they start getting physical and spending time with each other, like they really are developing feelings for each other. And I just loved it. Like the conflict in the book wasn't pure dramatic and extra. Both characters had issues that they had to deal with. Zafir has anxiety, and there was great anxiety rep in there. It was very realistic, and I really appreciated that being included and done in such a good way. And Danny is bisexual, so it was nice to have some bisexual rep in there, because normally in a book where we've got queer characters, they're either gay or lesbian, so it was nice to have somewhere else in that kind of like under the queer umbrella. So yeah, I was 100% here for it. I liked the way that the gender roles were kind of flipped, from the stereotypical kind of things that we see. Usually the women are more kind of idealistic and romantic and bookish, and we are fighting the setting sun. I am going to have to fix the lighting. Give me a sec. Okay, that isn't great, but it was better than what we were hearing it was, because it was actually starting to get quite dark all of a sudden. Where was I? Queer rep, yeah, gender roles. So it was the man that was more kind of idealistic about romance, and the female character that was more kind of hesitant and had the commitment issues and had this complicated issue with romance and love, etc. And then when it came to the grand gesture at the end of the book, it was the female character doing the most, and I just loved everything about this book. I thought it was perfect. It's very rare that I walk away from a book and think that there was nothing that could have been done to make it better, but that was one of those books where everything was right, everything was perfect. I just loved it. I love Zafir, I love Danny. It was just perfect. And also I love the fact that we had an interracial relationship where it wasn't just a black character and a white character. Both characters were people of colour. So I loved that also. And I'm going to be reading the third book in the series, which is Act Your Age, Eve Brown, next month in May, which I believe has ASD rep. If it's as good as Danny Brown and Chloe Brown, then it's going to be a complete success. So the next book I read this month was Spoiler Alert by Olivia Dade. I gave this one 4 stars. I think I overly hyped this book in my own head. I have this complicated relationship with looking forward to books where I kind of build it up too much in my own head, expecting 5 stars, and then there's something that falls flat. So I can't remember if it was 3.5 or 4 stars I gave to this. I think it was 4. So we have April and Marcus. April is a plus size woman who writes fan fiction for this series. I can't remember the name of the series, but it's a very kind of Game of Thrones vibe, and it sort of reminded me of my sort of relationship with Brienne and Jaime in Game of Thrones, where I kind of wanted the two of them to get together, and I know that that was quite a common issue between Game of Thrones stans, so that was what I was picking up from the book. And Marcus is one of the lead characters in the series who also writes fan fiction, but he has to keep it a secret because it could get him into trouble. So April has this sort of friendship / relationship with another person on the fanfiction server. The two of them are really close. Like, you can see that there's a kind of like romantic kind of budding thing happening there. And all of a sudden, like, he is kind of backing away from writing the fanfiction and stuff. And she's quite sad about that. While that's happening, prior to this, she posts a picture of herself in cosplay online and it goes viral. Unfortunately, as the internet usually goes on Twitter and stuff like that, you have the very polarising users where you have people who are extremely supportive and are like, yes, you go girl, you look amazing, live your best life, love your cosplay, I love it. And then you have the other half who were sort of fat shaming and making fun of her and were really, really horrid. So Marcus sees this, retweets the post, and then says, I want to take you out on a date. So she's like, yeah, sure. And she's just going along with it, thinking that it's just going to be some sort of publicity stunt. But then the two of them have this date, and he has this instant attraction towards her. It's not like an insta love vibe, but it is kind of insta attraction. And he just thinks that she's beautiful, she's perfect, and he is here for it. And then through the date, he sort of realizes that he is the person that she has been communicating with on the server, and he doesn't tell her it was him because he doesn't want it all to come out, and then he gets into trouble and all of that. So that kind of like gets kept secret. The relationship kind of unfolds in a really sweet way. He's very complimentary about her body shape and stuff like that, and even though she's had a really complicated relationship with her body, particularly due to her kind of toxic relationship with her mum. Her mum is she's quite sleek when it comes to discussing her weight. Like, she'll make wee comments like, oh, you sure you don't want a salad, and like suggesting the gym, and just wee things here and there that are implying you need to lose weight, which obviously is really harmful for people who have problems with body image and stuff like that. So a trigger warning if that could be an issue for you. And Marcus has his own stuff going on as well. He is portrayed by the media as this kind of vapid, airhead kind of good looking Hollywood star, but he's actually really intelligent. It just happens that he is dyslexic and has made a couple of slip ups along the way, and again that feeds into his kind of complicated relationships with his family with regards to his dyslexia. I didn't like the conflict that happened in the book simply because obviously I can't speak for other people who have had issues with their weight in the past. I've had issues with my weight. Currently, at this current moment in time, I am overweight. But I have had really big issues with my weight in the past. And I know that people's comments can really sting and affect you in a certain way. But there were things that happened where I thought she could have just communicated her feelings and explained why she reacted in a certain way when things were said. Without causing this big conflict where she just runs away. Like, I can understand it from a psychological perspective, but from a reader's perspective, I wish that she had just communicated more. I enjoyed the relationship. I wasn't invested in it the way that I thought I was going to be. And obviously she ended up hurt when she finds out that he's actually the person that's been writing the fan fiction. But again, I don't understand why she was so hurt. Obviously, there's the aspect of keeping secrets and stuff like that. But if it was me, I think I would be relieved and be like, oh my god, I've missed you so much. Like, I can't believe we've known each other this length of time. And do you know what I mean? Like, they were online besties. It was a good book. I enjoyed it. It was just not as good as I thought it was going to be. But that's just my own kind of personal opinion. The next book I read was Reef by Rebecca Witherspoon, and this was a 5-star for me. I absolutely love this book. Reef is a male nanny, and he's currently sort of finishing up with a family he's been working for a long time. He's planning on switching careers, hanging up his nanny pants. But then Sloane, who is the epitome of the strong, independent mother, needs a sitter, and he ends up taking the job. So the relationship between Sloane and Reef is great. There is chemistry, there is steam. Yes, I think I wouldn't be complaining if there was a Reef who came into my life. So what I loved about Sloane's character is she was this strong, independent female character who manages to have a career and have a family and have friendships and stuff like that. Because I know that even myself, I can sort of fall into this kind of like weird, almost martyrdom situation where I'm like, oh, I have to do this because blah 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 blah, when really you can say to someone, I need help. So Rafe was like this stereotypical physical form of masculinity in that he was big, he was muscular, he had a beard, he was covered in tattoos, but lacked that kind of like toxic masculinity aspect to him, which I loved because I am fond of a cinnamon roll. But he's this big gentle giant. He's so good with kids. The relationship between him and Sloane's kids is just pure and precious, and I freaking loved it. And it was just so good. I can't actually remember what the conflict was in the book. It might have been something to do with like the professionalism aspect of him working for her. I don't actually remember, but I think it's a good thing that I don't remember what the conflict is, because if I don't really remember it, then it means it was something that was kind of resolved quickly and sensibly and easily, and it wasn't something that was blown out of proportion. Yeah, five stars. Loved it. The relationship, iconic. The romance, wholesome. The sex scenes, spicy. I was 100% all in for this one. The next book I read was Fix It Up by Tessa Bailey, and I listened to this in audio as well. Now, I gave this one 2.5 stars, something like that. I didn't like it. It wasn't the worst book I've read, but it definitely wasn't the best. And I had several issues with it. So what Rafe lacked in toxic masculinity, Travis, the hero in this book, made up for in spades. I really did not like him, and there was no point in this book where he became a likeable character up until the last couple of pages. Georgie, the heroine, her main big problem in the story is is she's not being taken seriously for her job now. I could relate to that because I did children's party entertaining for years and people didn't take it seriously regardless of how lucrative it was and how much fun it was, but how hard work it was. Like, they kind of just viewed it as this kind of like childish pastime. But no, she's a clown, and you won't forget that she's a clown because it's mentioned in every single chapter, sometimes even multiple times in a chapter. Like, there is no, you cannot forget what this woman's career is because it's constantly repeated over and over and over again. So Travis is an ex baseball player who has had an injury and now can't play professionally, so he's went into this sort of kind of dark depression-y, kind of like drinking and sleeping all day kind of vibe, and he is Georgie's brother's best friend. We'll come back to that friendship in a second. And she kind of goes to try and save him from herself and spends time with him and stuff. And then the relationship develops from there. What I didn't like about the developing relationship was it was one of those situations where she has to have this makeover where she gets new outfits and stuff like that for him to notice her. And I know that it's a really common plot device in rom-coms and in books and stuff like that to have the makeover for someone else to open their eyes and be like, wow, you're gorgeous. But it's just not something I enjoy personally, because I think if it takes that for you to realise that you love someone or have an attraction to them, then it's quite superficial. But yeah, that was just a me problem. Me and pet names are hit and miss. I don't mind certain pet names, but the phrase baby girl really can rub me up the wrong way. So I didn't like it in 365 Days. It just made me cringe when it was used in that film. However, when it's used in a book where we have either a kind of like dom sub dynamic or daddy kink involved, I am 100% love it. But this was just your kind of like regular ass two normal people relationship where he was calling her baby girl incessantly. Now, especially taking into consideration the fact that she is complaining about the fact that everybody's kind of like infantilizing her, not taking her seriously and treating her like a child, throwing that in, really? Like, you didn't think that she might not want to constantly be reminded that she's being viewed like this way? I don't know, like, I just didn't vibe with it. And also the fact that she's a virgin, like, is totally glorified by Travis, and he uses phrases that I really hate. So I have issues with breaking her in, broke her in, getting broken, that sort of thing when it comes to losing your virginity, because that was used frequently as slut shaming when I was at school. And just used in a really unpleasant context, and quite a disgusting context as well. Like, I didn't like that in this book either. The friendship between Travis and the brother, who they were supposedly best friends, spent every day together. Like, Travis was always over having dinner at their house, but like, I didn't feel that kind of like bro vibe between the two of them. Every interaction they had was kind of passive aggressive or seemed kind of vaguely aggro. So I didn't like feel that from them either. So I think that it just kind of like fell flat for me. None of the characters were likeable for me, and I just thought, why? Also, coming back to the sex aspect of the book, the sex scenes for me made me feel as if I was reading two completely different books, because the sex scenes in this book were kind of like, gave me a kind of like dom sub vibe without it ever being discussed or like made a thing. So it felt as if like it was two different stories. I don't know. I really don't know. It could just be me that's viewing it that way. I don't know. The only thing that saved me for this, and the one reason I was glad I didn't DNF it, was I liked the ending of the book. I liked the grand gesture at the end. I was into it. I just wish that the characters hadn't annoyed me so much throughout the book. Could have been done so much different. But, you know, I read it. It wasn't the worst book I've read, but it definitely 100% was not the best. The next book I read was Baking with a Rockstar by Jasmine Miller. This was one of the books I had downloaded from my Kindle haul, and centres around the characters of Charlie and Hudson. So Charlie moves in with her grand's best friend after walking away from a relationship. She has a baby daughter. She's opening her own bakery, and one day she's making cakes, and this super hot guy turns up. It turns out that he is a rock star, grandson of the grand's best friend, and he actually owns the home that they're all staying in. And she's like, oh no 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 no, like I'll leave, I'll go outside somewhere else, like it's fine. And he's like, no, just stay here with me, like it's chill, I'm gonna be here for a while, just need to escape from the life for a wee while and chill. So the relationship is really sweet. It's very low angst, builds up gradually over time. It's a slow burn. And I love the relationship between Hudson and Charlie's daughter. But it was really wholesome. It was bordering on sickly sweet. This was like the perfect kind of comfort read for when you're feeling a bit sad, feeling a bit lonely, need something kind of low angst to kind of make you feel all fuzzy. It was good. There was a couple of twists and turns in the plot and the way there that I didn't expect. So I gave it 5 stars because it just left me feeling good inside. The next book I read was Your Dad Will Do by Katie Robert, and I gave this one 5 big old daddy stars. I love this book. So now I'm at a point where I have no shame in admitting that I have a particular interest for daddy kink in fiction. In real life, I haven't called anyone dad, daddy, or father in decades. So I don't know if I'd be able to kind of introduce that into my personal sex life without being extremely triggered. So yeah, I like it in fiction, not so much thinking about it in real life. Anyway, Shane and Lily. So Lily has split with her boyfriend. He's been cheating on her with his secretary or something like that, and she thinks the perfect way to get revenge is to go and sleep with his dad. So she goes to the dad, and he doesn't really have much reservation about it. He's just like, so obviously she's already had a kind of like interest in him anyway, and he's like had his eye on her. So there's no kind of like push and pull on either side of it. He is like the perfect kind of like older alpha without any toxic personality traits. And she is just 100% like into his whole vibe. The book was less romance and more smut, but this was like top tier smut. Katie Robert has such a knack for writing sex scenes that will make you sweat. They will make you feel some type of way. And yeah, I mean, I would give it 5 stars alone simply for that. But I enjoyed the beginning, I enjoyed the middle, I especially enjoyed the end. Yeah, I have, again, like Take a Hint, Danny Brown, 0 complaints for this, and I need to buy a physical copy. I listened to it in audio. I would have loved if the audio had been like Birthday Girl, where you had the male narrator and the female narrator. But even with just the female narrator, it worked for me. I really enjoyed it. And I will be buying a physical copy to have on me at all times, to reread a lot. I mean, I don't think there's much more to say on that, except you need to read it if you like age gaps, if you like daddy kink, and you haven't read this yet. Why? Go read it right now. The next book we have is Master Baker by Pippa Grant. We have Grady and Annika, who own rival bakeries, but they were best friends? They were best friends when they were younger, and then he declared her love for her. She ran away and joined the army. I nearly said joined the circus. Joined the army, comes back 10 years later to look after her mum, who's going through some stuff, and takes over her mum's bakery. So Grady has this really super weird like quirk where he talks dirty to his baked goods as he is preparing and baking them to make them good, and The first time it happened, it was funny. Like, he was filling donuts or something like that, and I laughed, and I was like, what the fuck is happening? But then, like, the more it happened, I was like, I don't like this. Um, I'm gonna see if I can find the particular passage with the donut filling, and if I can find it somewhere, I'll put it here because I returned it in Kindle Unlimited, and I've already downloaded a stack of books on there again. So that was like a bizarre inclusion. Like, don't understand why it was there. So there's like this petty rivalry. It's a small town, kind of like friends to lovers romance, but it's like two small towns that are like kind of rivals with each other. So I don't know if the author was trying to create like a kind of Romeo and Juliet bakery kind of star-crossed lover situation, but the rivalry was so petty. Like, people were holding grudges because someone stole someone's banana pudding recipe, and it was just really juvenile at times. I didn't really like. They end up going on this kind of like Great British Bake Off style competition on morning TV to drum up interest in the bakeries, that just felt kind of pointless because oh yeah, and across this time period they're sneaking around behind like their family and friends back to teach. He's teaching her how to bake, and they're having this kind of like romantic relationship blossoming in the midst of that. It wasn't terrible, it wasn't amazing, I enjoyed it. It's just there were some parts of it I just thought, why are you being so petty? So I gave it 3 stars. It was a slow burn. It was good. It just wasn't great. The second last book I read in March was Her Cherry by Penelope Bloom, and I gave this one 2 stars. So we have Hayley and William. Hayley owns a bakery that's not doing too good. She owes money on bills and she needs to make money. And she meets William, who comes into the bakery and buys a cherry pie, makes some suggestive comments, leaves a business card, and then steals a vase of flowers and leaves. So she contacts him anyway, and they end up like kind of seeing each other. His family aren't happy about it, thinks that she's taking money off him for the bakery or something like that, but she's not. But then he like drums up interest for the bakery. I think he works in marketing. Glorifying virgins again just isn't for me. Like, I don't care if you are a virgin, I don't care if you're holding on to it. See, as long as you're happy, I'm chill. Like, but see, when it comes to like the societal pressures of it, it makes me feel kind of like bad vibey. Also, back to the stealing the vase of flowers, it turns out that William is a kleptomaniac, or it's alluded to that he is a kleptomaniac, but it's weird the way that it's included because it's like used as a personality trait, and I mean, kleptomania is like a serious mental disorder that people genuinely struggle with. It's not a personality trait. So I don't like how that was put in there. Like, I don't feel it was necessary, and it just made me feel kind of uncomfortable. So no, 2 stars. Wasn't a fan. I might even just take it down to 1 star. 1.5. I don't know. I just didn't like it. Didn't like it. There was too many aspects of it that were annoying me. The humour was really juvenile, and I'm not that snobby that I don't laugh at juvenile humour. I do. It was just unfunny juvenile humour. I mean, if it's funny, I will fucking laugh, and I will laugh loud. I will cackle. But that wasn't it for me, personally. And the last book I read this month was Take a Number by Amy Dawes. I gave this one 4 stars. And this is about Nora and Dean. Nora owns a really successful bakery, and she's looking to franchise, and she's going to be opening a new bakery. And Dean is a kind of silent partner / investor in the bakery. And the two of them, again, have kind of chemistry in the beginning that you can see there. It's not as if they've just met and then something's developing. Nora is being pressured by her mum to kind of focus on having a relationship and grandkids for her instead of focusing so much on her work, and Dean's friends are kind of pressuring him to meet somebody suitable. So there's a wedding coming up, so he's like, I need a date for this. So he agrees. He and Nora end up starting this fake dating situation, and the first party that they go to is a garden party at Nora's mum's house, where she's trying to set Nora up with a childhood friend that she just isn't interested in. And they've already set up this agreement where there's going to be like no kissing, no inappropriate touching or anything like that. Like, there are ground rules, and then at this first date that they're on, they end up kissing in a panic for reasons. And it's like instantaneous, sparks fly between the two of them, and you just know from then on, you two are in trouble. There is no hope for you here. They end up going on a weekend away for the stag/hen party for Dean's friend's wedding, where everything kind of like heats up and snowballs and spirals, and the two of them end up seeing each other regularly, having dinner together, having sex at times together, and then the two of them become aware of it, and he like it's giving Dean bad vibes, it's giving Nora bad vibes, and dry and call off. The reason this could have been a 5-star, except for Dean having some petty ass behaviour towards the end of the book, that I was just like, this was going so well for me. I was standing both of you, because both characters were really likeable again. Like, I had no complaints on that front. So that was it. Really enjoyed the ending. The book in general was really good. Like I said, 4 stars. I was here for it. Fake dating office romance, give me some of that and I'm happy. Unfortunately, I forgot to take a note on my stats for this month, so all the pages read and formats and all of that sort of thing. I'll just put a wee kind of like infographic thing here with the info on it. I listened to more audiobooks than I would normally. I usually read 1 or 2 a month, and I think I listened to 4 this month. 5. So that was good. That was different. So yeah, that's it. Those are the books I read. Do I think that the Ripped Bodice Awards that I mentioned in my TBR, do I think that they made good choices? Yes, I genuinely do. And it's been a great reading month, even though we did have a couple of 2-star books in there. It still was a great reading month. I had a good time, and I'm glad that I got a good reading month before I decided to have an absolute nervous breakdown. Now that I'm feeling better, I think I'll be able to kind of like get back into it and read and have a good time. I know that the first book that I read this month was a 1-star, and I thought, well, the way life's going, that's not a fucking surprise. So yeah, next video will probably be a Kindle haul, and then I will see you for my mid-April wrap-up. So stay safe, happy reading, and I'll speak to you later. Bye!